Because at TTA we are working with clients of all sizes and all different industries, we do have a broad perspective that I'd like to share with you today. Michael, from a learning perspective, what do you see changing?
Things are changing quite a bit. Instructional design's always been focused on learners. We always want to have objectives, but there is there's a different kind of discussion going on. And that's one of the reasons why TTA sponsored a research study on learner preferences. And there's a few different things that came out of that study that I found interesting. First of all, instructor-led training is still thriving. It's still a preferred modality for learners, right? Another interesting point there is that approaches that are more varied, where we're using multiple modalities, where we have a variety of digital approaches and kind of live instructor-led approaches, are more effective. That was one of the big findings of the research.
Are you seeing new modalities becoming more popular?
What's interesting is we see the modalities kind of subdividing. So it's like, okay, we used to use this blanket term of e-learning, and now you've got gamification, simulation, and mobile, and there's a lot of overlap in the categories. One of the things that was interesting, the people that led the research study, is they had a list of like 14 modalities. And I don't know that people would automatically think, hey, wow, there's 14 modalities that we're using for learning. A few years ago, they would have come up with 2, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty big shift.
Do you think everything is going digitally?
There's a yes and a no answer there. Here's the yes answers. Of course, everything's going digital. The even live experiences. So I think when people ask that question, they think, oh, are we going to replace all the humans with, automated training programs? And I think that's, but we are seeing an infusion of technology into the classroom. And that classroom experience is changing. It's breaking apart. Even in that whole micro trend, you find huddles, you find technology being brought into the classroom in the form of simulations and gamification and all those elements to where we're kind of breaking down the boundaries and kind of blurring the lines between the modalities. And according to our research, that is a more effective way of solving the problem than what we've been doing in the past.
From a technology standpoint, what type of technology do you feel we are using today to help our clients?
I'm glad you asked this question. I love talking about technology with our customers. There's so much opportunity to build technology into the design, and that becomes one of the themes that we talk about most with our clients, is not just thinking of technology as a tool for delivering the design, but as an integral part of the design. Right? It's not just about getting the training to them with whatever electronic device we have in the room. It's more about thinking through the ways that we can take advantage of these devices and this technology to make the design better. I'll give a couple of examples. Michael was talking about sort of the overlapping of the modalities and how everything is going digital. That's certainly true as we think even about instructor-led training and the increasing prevalence of the digital classroom. Right, so even when we have an instructor-led situation, there are so many opportunities to bring in some of these technological tools and make that learning experience better. There's real-time data gathering, for instance, right, where we can understand what the learners are following along with, what they understand well, what they don't understand, how we need to supplement even as we go. Right, we couldn't understand that until we're actually in that situation. But once we do, we can build a design that is flexible enough to allow for some movement in the course itself, and then we have the tools to actually gather that information.
Tell us how TTA is addressing our clients' needs from the design and development standpoint.
From my lens, learning is all about the learner. We're thinking about not only their performance outcomes and their needs and their goals, but also the user experience, what it's like to go through the learning experience, as Keith was mentioning as well. So we really like to think about learning in terms of the small micro assets, the small experiences that have impact, but how do they connect together into those larger macro strategies that really help to achieve their performance outcomes, their performance goals. Think about it as a cocktail. How do we create that smallest meaningful ingredient that on its own stands great, but when connected in different formulas, when connected together using recipes, we can create something even more meaningful for the individual, for the learner, based on how they like to put their pieces together. Research has actually shown that we can increase learner engagement by over 50% by looking to really microtize our learning, by looking at smaller, meaningful learning bites. But micro isn't always the solution. It's important to think about when there are more complex performance outcomes that we're looking to accomplish, when we need hands-on practice, when it's content that's really critical to the organization. Things like virtual reality, simulation, games, more immersive kinds of learning strategies are going to probably be a better fit. One other thing to mention as well is around the getting learning in the workflow. We know our learners are incredibly busy, so we're trying to bring learning to where they are at their moment of need in the workflow. We're also trying to super curate the information that we serve up to them, so just the right information at just the right time to help them to be successful on the job.
Marlene, how are companies leveraging agile talent today?
Well, it's funny, there are 7.1 million open jobs right now. So companies have to do really creative things in order to continue work moving forward, and they are using what we at TTA call agile talent, which is freelancers or contractors in order to get important work done. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. They're having to do other creative things along with that, including creating better candidate engagement, being just, easier to work with, and really having to attract the right people and retain them.
So even though we see unemployment rates being the lowest ever, there's certainly a lot of agile talent out there, people looking for, the right position and jobs.
That's right.
That even impacts from the training perspective, that changes things a little bit, because suddenly, if there's a deficit, right, we can bring on new people, right? We can bring them on temporarily and strategically in the agile model, but it also impacts kind of the focus of training efforts, right? Of how do we, Keith talked about upcycling of technology. We have an upskilling of people.
That's right.
That kind of thing goes along with that trend you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
What type of skills are you seeing that clients are looking for? And how do you see that trending over the many years that you've been working in this industry?
It's more important now than ever to really kind of develop the soft skills within an organization, including emotional intelligence, conflict management, team building, communication skills. They're all so important, and actually what we're seeing a lot of from our customers today.
In soft skills, what I'm loving is that there is room for a lot more, more interesting, more varied topics. It used to be that there was a kind of common core for like leadership training, for example.
Yeah.
And now we see that there's a lot more creativity there with design thinking and resilience and grit and all these interesting aspects of leadership that because leadership has significantly changed our perception of an organizational structure, how we work together, agile teams. We were talking about agile talent before, but that kind of leadership is structurally and substantively different.
I find it interesting to see that we're getting more client requirements for the Clifton Strength Finder. We've noticed several, so we did that internally, as we know, and we find it very helpful in working together with teams, and it's great that a lot of our clients are seeing the value of this and working with their teams and working from their strengths.
For sure.
What I think is so exciting as well is as we think about the full learning strategy and we think about even the flipped classroom, how do we provide information to learners before they get into a live experience so they really can roll up their sleeves and practice and build some of these more complex communication skills and strengths and really focus on building some great individual personal skills.
That's an underlying trend we haven't really talked about, which is the personalization element. I mean, what you're getting when you focus on your individual competencies is there's a way for us to be able to create a unique experience for you because of who you are, that before we didn't have the tools, the science, the technology to do that as well. And I think that's something that is kind of super exciting about working today in this field.
Okay, so Michael, we've seen all these directions and everybody has their trend reports. What do you think is the biggest impact that TTA has in the marketplace going into this year?
I think we have a solid foundation. Marlene was talking about agile talent. We've been in the agile talent space. We were pioneers in that space, right? So I think it's, that's coming of age now, and that's a huge opportunity for us, is, kind of meeting that demand for learning and development professionals, for trainers. I think the other thing that we're positioned very well to do is, because of that large network that we have, and because of the expertise that we have in-house, to solve a lot of these newer problems, whether it's custom solutions. I mean, we were talking earlier about one of our clients that's putting together a sales boot camp, right? All of the different ingredients of that, from the from the facilitators and consultants, to the technical platform, to the social learning aspect. I mean, that kind of a solution is something that we're uniquely positioned to be able to do, because of our relationships, because of our design chops, and because of the legacy of TTA.
There's so many different things that a large company is going to want to do in the L&D space. We can be kind of the one touch point, so they don't have to say, all right, I have these 5 different initiatives, I need to find 5 different partners, 5 different vendors. We are their one-stop shop, as it were, and that simplicity has a lot of value for companies that are trying to do so many different things. So the fact that they can come to to one of us sitting here at the table and say, I need to do all these different things, and we can help them with all of them. I love that. I love being able to do such a variety of things with our clients.